Well, we now turn to Thomas Ruskin. He's the president of CMP. That's the Protective and Investigative Group. Thomas, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Thomas, you were a former NYPD detective and investigator. Cities are now on high or higher alert. We're in Times Square. You just came here, Times Square. When you say we're on high alert, and when we have people using weapons like cars to ram people on the sidewalk, what can we do?
We can't do very much. I mean, we have to basically follow the intelligence where it takes us. We know that the attacker in London was on the radar of police, that they had supposedly followed him at certain times. That's what you want law enforcement to do. But, you know, we don't have enough officers around the world to follow everybody who potentially could be radicalized and or cause a threat.
Well, you say that law enforcement knew a few things about this guy, but you can't really do anything. You have to wait for them, unfortunately, to perpetuate a criminal act or an act of terror before you can act.
Correct. I mean, a couple of years ago in May, just a couple blocks from here, we had Faisal Shahzad pull his car into Times Square on 45th Street, just off of Broadway, stop his car with propane tanks in the back, try and detonate the car.
Right.
Unfortunately, he failed terrorism school and was unable to detonate that car. Thank God, because it was a warm May night and it would have hurt or killed hundreds of people. And it was due to the diligence of a vendor who saw this weird behavior who alerted police.
That was an incident where you saw something. There was a vigilance, as you said, amongst the population. But we had today in Antwerp, in Belgium, a man attempting again to drive through a crowd of people. When we have these Islamic terrorists taking things like cars and weaponizing them, even if you have some intelligence of them beforehand, is there anything that the police can do?
Well, I mean, it's see something, say something. So it's really alerting police to strange behavior. I mean, we go to San Bernardino, just to keep it in the United States for a second. There was behavior of the gentleman who became radicalized and eventually killed all those people at the office party, who neighbors could have called police and told them things. There was another neighbor who was assisting, who was later arrested. These are the things that police around the world are looking for to possibly get on top of, to be able to stop this.
But how difficult is it to get on top of these kind of things without them being accused of racial profiling, for example? Because you guys face a tremendous challenge with that regard. There seems to be a trend behind the people that do this, but then when you follow that trend, there are consequences of racial profiling.
Around the world, law enforcement and governmental agencies are now not worried about profiling. You're worried about making sure that that person that you have the tip on is properly vetted and watched and determined if they're a potential threat. But as you alluded to in your first question, we live in a very open society around the world, and in great cities in this country, in the world. And at that point in time, something like this, a terrible tragedy like this, can happen.
Tom, ISIS is claiming responsibility for this, saying that it's one of their soldiers. Do you buy that? And does it even matter?
It doesn't matter at the end of the day. The people who have been hurt and injured and lost their lives, including the police officer who was killed in the line of duty, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. But it matters relative to getting on top of the ISIS channels and potentially making certain things illegal.
But if it's a case of ideology, if it's a case of lone wolves or people taking action into their own hands in the name of Allah, taking on Islamic jihad, whether they're linked to ISIS or not, what can we do unless we address the ideology behind it all?
Well, I mean, if they're going to become radicalized, that could be a lone wolf. It could be a group of people. But, you know, we don't know. For ISIS to take responsibility, we don't know if he had any ISIS training other than what they're probably getting off of forensic, like computers and stuff.
How much training does it take to take a car and mow down a bunch of people?
We know from the Boston bombing that it doesn't take that much. You can go on the internet and learn how to make bombs and things that can hurt and kill people.
Now, I know that during the high crowd events, like, for example, here in Times Square, New Year's Eve, they put barricades on the sidewalk, cement barricades to prevent cars from doing this. Is this something we need to be doing more of in higher populated areas, or are we compromising our own freedom and liberty by doing that?
We have to do it. I mean, we basically have learned that big sanitation trucks filled with sand are great barriers, other than the barriers you alluded to. So around the world, from Paris to Tel Aviv to here, we are taking proper precautions as a society and from law enforcement standpoints.
All right. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thomas Ruskin, thank you.